The issue of employee retention can be very frustrating for organizations. It can be very expensive and time consuming and requires a lot of effort to hire people, especially if they're good. And then if they don't stay, well, that can be a real pain. Those costs add up, and the cost of employee turnover long term can be significant. And so organizations are very keen to find people not just who are good, but who are actually going to stay in the role for a long time. And it's good to think of these things in terms of like a total employee lifetime value. Just how good is the employee from a quality perspective versus how long will they stay. Now, the big problem is that interviews are not a very good tool for maximizing employee retention. Better for quality of hire, limited, but better. But when it comes to retention, there's really very little there. Because the candidate is, of course, just trying to convince you that they're good. Okay? So if you ask them, are you going to stay for a long time? They're not going to say no. They're going to say yes. They're going to do everything they can to convince you that they will stay. When, of course, being good at interviews is not going to preclude one to stay in an organization for longer. That's a very different situation. It's not about skill, it's about fit. And that's a behavioural concept that you just can't tap in using interviews. As a result, we strongly recommend using behavioural assessments in this area because every role has a sort of profile. If you think about the ideal salesperson, they have a certain profile. They're going to be relatively extroverted. They're going to be industrious. They're going to be resilient. There are characteristics you need to excel in this role, but also to stay in it. Because if you're a behavioural misfit to the ideal, well, you're not going to enjoy your work very much. It's going to be very stressful. You will feel out of place. And you can extend that to organizations too, in that every organization has its own culture, its own values, its own sort of way of thinking and being. And if you don't mesh with that, if you don't align with that, it's very uncomfortable. And people ultimately get less engaged. They feel less loyal, less satisfied in their work. They leave. And that's how attrition occurs. And so you have to keep in mind both role fit and organization fit. And the only way to do that scientifically, reliably, is with behavioral assessments. Because you can just isolate the specific characteristics which matter to you and then measure them and see whether each person individually fits that mold. And if they do, they're far more likely to stay, to be engaged, to be satisfied, to be loyal to the organization because they're in the right place. And that's not something you can get using only interviews because they will tell you they're in the right place, but there's no bearing on the reality of the situation. Behavioral assessments, on the other hand, much clearer picture.